Welcome to your Route to Wellbeing podcast. I'm Sue Fullergood, and I'm absolutely sure that you deserve to feel great, and it's possible for you to pulse with energy. So if you're not thriving right now, or if there's something that's interrupting your thriving, then maybe this podcast is just what you're looking for. I've tapped into the knowledge base of experts in the 11 domains of well-being. Each of the experts has something that I think is part of the crucial knowledge that you need to be able to really take care of yourself. And so listen in and see if you can get that magical piece of information that's going to make the difference for you. Please feel free to share this with your friends and family, whoever you think may benefit from it. Please push the subscribe button so that you can be alerted when future episodes are available. Thank you for listening. Hello, I am Sue Fullergood, your host on your Route to Wellbeing podcast, and I'm super excited to be with you this afternoon and to have with me my special guest, Tim Wagner, who is a previously burnt out corporate executive who has now become a breathwork alchemist. And I absolutely am certain that breathwork is one of the critical bridges to feeling well and to thriving and to managing your internal state, both of your mind and your body. And so I am just so thrilled that Tim and I could find a time when we could have this conversation together. Tim was in hospitality for 22 years. And 27 years. I think I got it wrong, didn't I, Tim?
27. Don't take those 5 years away from me.
Take those 5 tough years out of your CV for you. 27 years in the hospitality industry, and he left because of the incessant stress that he felt, and he recognized, thank God, that he was on the verge of burnout. And he wanted to identify a different way of living his life. Since then, he's been a coach and a mentor, and he says that's 16 years that he's been doing that. So he has literally done thousands of coaching and mentoring sessions, and he works with business professionals, helping them to find a way out of feeling stressed and unfulfilled, and to discover a new way of finding inner peace and true success. In 2022, he added the power of breathwork to his coaching basket and the modalities that he shares, and that's what I really want to discuss with him today. Of course, if any of his other magical tools and techniques get thrown into the mix, it will be wonderful. But it's really the breath work which I want to focus on today. So Tim is also a fellow speaker, and that's how I first came to meet him when we were on a speaking engagement together on a convention. And really, I am as excited as I'm sure you are to hear what Tim has to say about breathwork today. He's literally spoken all around the world. He lives in Langebaan with his wife and his 4 children. He's been married for 25 years, and he just loves being on the lagoon in Langebaan, especially at sunrise, where he sets the tone for his day and starts his day with breath work. So his mantra, as he shared with me, is live your life by design and not default. And so I really love that mantra. It's kind of right up your Route to Wellbeing podcast mentality. So without further ado, I'd love to hand the microphone over to you, Tim, and ask you to share with us, how did you discover breathwork? How did that come to be part of your coaching basket?
Wow, Sue, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And even though I wrote it, I still sit here going, wow, really? Is that me? It's amazing. And the journey into breathwork took me by complete surprise. I wasn't looking for breathwork. I actually say breathwork found me. So by the time I sort of stumbled across it by complete default, I met this guy called Brian. And he asked me about breath work, and I thought, well, I've been breathing at that point for 50 years. I've got to be pretty good at it. Like, lots of experience. I'm still here. I'm healthy, very strong. Only to find out I had absolutely no clue. And what caught my attention right in the beginning was when he taught me that when you're breathing through your nose and you shut your mouth, it acts as a natural tranquilizer to your nervous system, calming you if you're stressed or anxious. And I thought, but why don't I know this? That sounds so simple. How could my life have been differently in the corporate world where just stress was a major part of life, but negative stress, where it was impacting my health and my relationships and my ability to focus and concentrate and sleep and all of these things. And that's what started me on the journey. But I wasn't looking for breath work. It was an interesting journey of trying to find a way that I could train at sea level to climb at high altitude, because my goal at that point was climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And I was just Googling, how do you train at sea level? And breathwork found me. That was my initial introduction. And it took me a couple of months to really start to unpack and understand how my negative breathing state had impacted my entire physiology when I was working in corporate, and it actually was still continuing to do so because I was still living in a stressed state. I just didn't realize it. It was a different type of stress from the corporate world, but I'd never shed that anxiety. I was still carrying it with me at the point 4 years later. That was my unusual introduction into breathing.
Well, I love that story because I think honestly, often the techniques and tools that we need do find us. And maybe that's exactly how our listeners are going to hear about breathwork today. Breathwork is going to find them just by listening to this podcast. So what did you find was the difference when you started to utilize breathwork and to breathe better? Obviously, I'm not just asking about the science of it, but how did it feel in your body? How did you know you felt better?
Brilliant question. I'll tell you why. Because I figured I want to see how this actually works for me. I did quite a bit of research and started to attend quite a few, read some books and a lot of online stuff about it. And I thought, well, I want to test this. At that point, part of my training, I was beginning to run. So I thought, okay, I want to see if I start running, only breathing through my nose, what's the difference? It took me about 5 months to get comfortable with that without being a mouth breather when running. And the remarkable change in my performance, in my running, in my recovery was just obvious to me that there's something really powerful in being a nose breather and not a mouth breather, even when exercising. So I thought I'd try it out myself. And that was the first time that I realized, but hold on a second, there's some real stuff into this that we don't know. That I don't know, that business people don't know, that stressed people don't know. But what the real catalyst was, this guy that I bumped into online, that I met online, Brian, he introduced me to a very specific style of breathing called transformational breathwork journeys. Because what he taught me was that breathwork is not about treating the symptom, but breathwork can actually get underneath to the underlying cause of your negative emotional reaction to stressful circumstances. And that fascinates me. So he invited me to what is a 1 hour deep holotropic breathing, which is open mouth, deep belly, which is an activation of your diaphragm. So it's deep belly, deep chest, where you're filling your lungs fully. Because, Sue, as you know, we don't fill our lungs. We don't use our diaphragm, 90% of society doesn't breathe properly. And so in this 1 hour deep breathing session, I'll be honest with you, it was the toughest breathing that I've ever done in my life. It was hard work. It really was. But the transformation was absolutely palpable. You see, this breath work is a combination of breathing, NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, for the audience, a type of communication, talking to the subconscious mind. That's where limiting beliefs and paradigms and traumas are often stored in your subconscious, and music. So it's a combination of breathing, NLP, and music. that allows your body to go into a self-healing mode. And then with the communication directly to the subconscious mind to release any negative thoughts that you have about yourself, be it from preachers, teachers, parents when you're a kid, or something traumatic happened and that's stored in your subconscious, and it's a trigger that you react in a certain way when somebody says something, or you are anxious on an ongoing basis and you don't know why. All of that sits inside our bodies. But what happened with the breath work, it allowed my body to go into a state to start healing itself, which was absolutely profound. And it was that type of breath work that I now specialize in.
And again, I'm going to ask you, how did you know your body was healing itself? What did it feel like? What was the sensation?
Wow. That first journey, let me backtrack a little bit. I'll answer that for you. Our bodies store trauma through energy. We are energetic beings. And when a traumatic experience can happen, and it can be ongoing stress, it can be that you lost your mom's hand in a busy shopping mall when you were 5 and you felt abandoned, something as simple as that, or a car accident, the loss of a loved one. And that traumatic experience can be held somewhere in your body as trapped energy. So when you're breathing in this state and your body is then in a position to release this, it can release it in one of many ways, through movement. So my hands started to shake. There are some people who use TRE, tremor release. So this is a very similar thing, but it starts shaking naturally to the point that my hands actually got cramp, which is called tetany. This is the beginning of a big release. And what was absolutely was a most weirdest sensation ever is that my fingers released that tension through heat, through my fingertips. There was a hot sensation. And then an immediate calm and peace came over me. That you can actually feel an ease. And I didn't know I was holding any of this, but my body did. But when it was gone, it was like a reset button and being hit for my mind, my body, and my soul. And it was as if I had found clarity and an open-mindedness and lack of stress that I didn't know was possible. And it all happened in the space of an hour.
It's pretty incredible, I must say.
Yes.
I've done a lot of breath work myself, and I work a lot with somatic experiencing, where we also downregulate the nervous system. So
Right.
I'd love to just say that what really is happening is the parasympathetic function is coming up and the sympathetic function is going down. I'm just saying this for my listeners who's been hearing me say these things for years and years, that the more we can get the parasympathetic nervous system to operate, then the calmer the whole
Right.
body and mind are going to be. And that's what you were experiencing. So it almost feels like a spiritual experience. I know that
Very much.
feels like you're going into an altered state, but what's really happening is that we're just so unfamiliar with being in a parasympathetic state,
Calm.
where the nervous system is calm and we're regulated.
Right.
So and so now you practice every day, or is that what you do, and is that what you advocate?
Not the specific style of breathing, no. This you would do once a week, maybe for a couple of months. It's not, this style of breathing is very much about that inner healing. So it entirely depends on what you have. Some of my clients do it for a couple of months as part of my full bigger coaching program. But it depends on how much trauma and issues and things that they're dealing with or have dealt with that's stored in their body over time. But there's not a breathing style that you'll use every single day, no. The one breathing style that I tell my clients to use every single day, and I'm known as I remind them consistently of it, is shut your mouth and breathe through your nose. So that's the first and primary thing that I tell all my clients. So I'll send them a little emoji during the day to remind them, shut your mouth. But they know I do it because I care for them and love them lots and care for their well-being.
So shut your mouth and breathe through your nose. Are you advocating for breathing in and out through the nose, or just
In and out your nose. Yep.
In and out.
Yogi Ramacharaka wrote a book in 1901, The Yogic Style of Breathing, and he said, your nose isn't made for eating and your mouth is not made for breathing.
Yeah, I love that. And can you say something about mouth breathing at night? Because a lot of people struggle with that and they don't really know what to do about it. Have you got some tools to help with that?
I used to be a mouth breather at night, or which is commonly known as a snorer. And I know that. Well, I only know it because my wife told me, so I'll take her word for it. And so what was very interesting was, as I became more consciously aware of my breathing, or what I call a conscious connected breather, and I started to have breathing practices during the day, my sleep started to get better because I naturally started to keep my mouth closed at night. But it wasn't a focus area of mine. It was only months later that my wife said, you don't snore anymore. Wow, that's quite amazing. But the one science that has been around for a while, but is becoming more, I can't say mainstream, it's not in mainstream medicine, but there's a lot of research done about it now, is mouth taping. Very small piece in South Africa called micropore. It's that sort of after surgery when you've got the scab and you want it to improve. It's a slightly adhesive tape. And you just do a thin strip from underneath your nose, just across your lips to your chin. That, very uncomfortable at the beginning. Now, this is something I've not done myself. I've done research on it, and I've had people who've done it before. Not something I've needed to do, so I've not done it. But what I'm understanding is that the first couple of weeks, it can be quite uncomfortable, but you're not going to suffocate because it's not a very strong tape. So if you do gasp, if your nose is blocked, your mouth will open. You'll break the tape or the seal of it. But over a period of a couple of weeks to a month, maybe even 6 weeks, you'll naturally start to find that your body keeps your mouth closed, because then you're going to have a much deeper sleep. You're not going to be as tired when you wake up. You're not going to be as dehydrated. When you're breathing through your mouth, you dehydrate. And that in itself is a bad thing when you're sleeping. And your body's actually going to be able to get that much needed rest to reset.
I like how you say use micropore, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people are using lots of pieces of quite sticky tape, and I think that is not a good idea, because we don't want to turn ourselves into a state of worse stress, because now the body feels like it's being suffocated or it can't get the oxygen that it needs. So we never want to use force with the body. So that's a really beautiful way of encouraging and inspiring the body without forcing it. So thank you for that lovely technique. And how soon should people be able to feel the difference with their sleeping if they do try this?
Within a couple of weeks. The more consistently you do it, start at the beginning for 15 minutes, then the next day half an hour, and then maybe you'll fall asleep after 3 or 4 days with it on. And the more that you're consistent at it, it can only take a couple of weeks and you'll start to notice a difference. But one of the key things that I also encourage is to become more consciously aware of breathing during the day. So this is what the conscious connected breathing is. It doesn't mean that you have to remember breathe in, breathe out. No, not quite as dramatic as that. But if you set a reminder on your phone for 3 times a day, morning, lunchtime, evening, just for 60 seconds to select a chosen breathing technique, and there's many of them available, wherein for 60 seconds, you just stop whatever you're doing. Don't do it when you're driving. Wait until you're pulled over. But just stop what you're doing and focus on your breathing. Am I breathing through my nose? Am I breathing into my belly? Am I breathing through my diaphragm? And the more you're aware of that, the more it becomes a subconscious habit that you become more aware of it. Then you'll start to think when you're walking the dogs, or going to the beach, or walking around the shop, you walk from your car to your house. Become aware, how am I breathing? And you'll be surprised at how often you find that your mouth's open and your mouth breathing, which means, as you've just quite rightly pointed out, that's activation of sympathetic nervous system, fear, fight, flight mode. Not a good place to be in for long periods of time.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And it is quite difficult, by the way, to exercise with your mouth closed. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you're really in oxygen deficit, then it's tempting for the body to try and get more air by opening the mouth. Uh,
Right.
so, have you got some suggestions for somebody who's trying to, really maybe get their heart rate up and is pushing themselves a little bit into oxygen deficit, or into, raising their heart rate up? How can they overcome the sort of breathlessness that they might experience doing this?
Yeah, that's actually a brilliant question. And this was why I thought I need to do it for myself, because it didn't logically make sense. Breathe through your nose, less air, less oxygen. Only to find out that there's a misconception on that. So the question is always, I ask my clients, do you want more oxygen or more air? And the answer is, well, more oxygen. Right. Your oxygen intake into your bloodstream is greater when you breathe through your nose than your mouth. So you need what's called nasal nitric oxide formed as part of nasal breathing, and it breathes into the bottom half of your lungs, which is a greater intake of oxygen into your bloodstream than if your mouth breathing, which breathes into the top half of your lungs. So that straight away means that when you are breathing through your nose under exertion, it's not the lack of oxygen that's the concern. It's the buildup of CO2. Can you get the CO2 out quick enough? That's what often gives people what they call breath hunger. It's not a lack of oxygen. It's a buildup of CO2. But here's the amazing thing. You can train your body. And this is what deep sea divers do. The free divers, trombone players or wind instrument players in musical instruments, is they increase their tolerance to CO2, which gives them the ability to actually hold their breath for longer and also to be able to exercise under pressure for longer. I'm not entirely 100% certain on how it would impact your heart rate, because when you are breathing, and this is my personal experience, when I was only breathing through my nose, I never had an issue of being breath hungry at all. Last year, I ran five half marathons and one full marathon, only nasal breathing. And that was from having never run before. I trained for 3 months and I started running in my first half marathon. And I would pass people who were runners for many years. You could see that they were, and they would huff and puff, and I would carry on running. And the one thing that I never had was a shortness of breath. It was quite amazing.
So you've talked a lot about diaphragmatic breathing, and I'm a big advocate for that. In fact, my honors thesis was on diaphragmatic breathing, so it's been something I've been doing. And if you only have to look at all the wrinkles on my face to know that I've been doing it for a long time. And I really found that. In fact, we proved that diaphragmatic breathing in asthmatic children was helpful in the long term to improving their well-being and their lifestyles. And so I've really taken that right into my life. But I'd love to hear how you train people to breathe with their diaphragms better, and what tools you can offer our listeners for getting their diaphragms to work more, as well as breathing through their noses.
It's an excellent point, and you're far more the expert in diaphragmatic breathing than I would ever be. But what I do with my clients when they're starting out is, first of all, to go through are they a reverse breather? In other words, when they're breathing in, they're pulling their belly in, and when they're breathing out, they're pushing their belly out. That's reverse breathing, which is very prevalent in females more than men. It is in men as well, but mostly prevalent in females. And it could be down to a societal thing where ladies are taught suck in your tummy to appear thinner. And the negative impact on your body over years can be astronomical. I'm sure, Sue, you would know a lot more about it than me. So the first thing I teach people to do is while they're sitting and they're breathing in through their nose, is when you breathe in, you push your belly out against your pants. When you breathe out, you suck it in. So you're imagining your lungs are like balloons. And when you're breathing in, you're inflating the balloons, they're getting bigger. So you got to push your belly out to open the lungs. And when you're squeezing the balloon, you're squeezing from your belly and you're bringing your tummy in on the out breath. That in itself is the start of activating your diaphragm. A big, big problem. And there's many of my clients who it takes, because they've been reverse breathing for years, even decades, it's a retraining yourself on actually how to breathe effectively. So that's where I start with the diaphragm. And then, of course, when you're doing a breathwork journey, which is deep breathing for 45 minutes, that's activation of your diaphragm on a supersonic level, which is one of the reasons why it's actually so uncomfortable, because the reality is, how many people out there actually do breathe from the diaphragm?
And so the diaphragm becomes flabby and weak, and we start using our neck muscles to try to lift our lungs from the top, and our intercostal muscles work, but our diaphragms stay flabby and weak, and therefore we have no endurance in them, no strength and no endurance, and that's why it would be so tiring. But yeah, I love that. So people can put their hands on their belly and experience the belly expanding on the in-breath and disappearing on the out-breath.
100%.
As you say, feeling the belly move towards the trousers or the belt. Yeah. Thank you for that. And now, Tim, can you help us know, because you work with these people all the time, how would breath work help a busy executive suffering from stress and deadlines and overload and overwhelm and all the things we know our executive C-suite people are feeling most of the time and living?
Well, this was what fascinated me when I first started researching about breath work, is that when you're in that state of stress and anxiety for long periods of time, as you've said earlier on, you're activating your sympathetic nervous system, which is breathing in your mouth and your chest. And when that happens, the ongoing issues can be dramatic with your health. The World Health Organization state that 24% of people who hit burnout, because they remain in a high stress state for many, many, many years, 24% people get hospitalized with chronic medical conditions. So the first thing that I look at with any busy executive is asking them about their health states. And majority of the time, it's not good. So it's the matter of then saying, right, well, you've been doing one thing one way for many years. How's it working for you? Not well. Okay. Let's start changing it. And the simplicity is starting to change how they're breathing. Start straight away, and that goes to the shut your mouth. Straight away can start on a very simple basis. It needs to go a lot deeper, but on a very simple basis. Watch how you're breathing and breathing through your nose. When it comes to a huge release of carried stress, because carried stress leads to anxiety, then it's the transformational breath work. Now, the great thing about these 60-minute breathing techniques is you do them at night as part of a nighttime routine. So there's no emails, requirements during the day. Everything's finished. The kids are fed, the wife and husband's fed, done, deal, everything. The dog's been put to sleep or whatever it is that you've done, and they're all just settling down. So instead of reading your book or watching Netflix or doing your emails, you would literally then plug your headphones in and listen to a deep guided a breathwork session, which is sort of like a deep guided meditation, if you want. And from there, you take your headphones out and you just sleep. Now, 90% of people who are highly stressed and anxious sleep poorly because their minds are overactive. And this style of breathing calms that conscious thinking mind, also called the ego mind. It calms it. And in that state, you can sleep peacefully. And that's the chance that your body's then got to reset. Your nervous system's got a chance to reset. Which means The busy executives don't need to add this onto already an overburdened plate or overburdened calendar. You can do it at night.
But
Then they,
long time. Are you advocating for them doing this for 60 minutes before they go to sleep?
yes. So I run sessions at night. I have recordings, but I do live sessions. So that's what you do. It's a little bit counterintuitive because it's mouth breathing, but because you're doing it for a set period in a certain manner, it's a down-regulating breath. So it becomes a calming state, which then calms your body, calms your conscious mind. That's where the NLP comes in, that I've got access to the subconscious to ask it questions and for the subconscious to release any limiting beliefs and paradigms that it's got there as well. It's what I call the trifecta, with the music added to it. It's extremely restful. And afterwards, you just sleep.
But I think for people to be able to sleep well, they need to be in a parasympathetic state, and so whatever you are
Correct.
doing that's bringing up the parasympathetic function, or if you like, down regulating the system, is going to give access to better sleep, better rest, and therefore better function the next day.
Exactly.
Much better energy levels. Yeah.
Completely. Invest an hour at night will reap you return for hours for the next days, as you're able to focus better, find more clarity, find solutions to problems you couldn't see before, able to focus in meetings and conversations and follow conversations as well. It's a massive change. There's no get well quick scheme by any means. It's a process. It is all a journey. It can't just be breath work. It's breath work and some. But the breath work, what I love about it, and it's my own personal experience at the beginning, and I've had this in hundreds of clients' experience as well, can give you a very fast, very quick, peaceful space to be able to then function from in a better way. And then you lead on to it from there. So all my programs begin with breath work. Not only the breathwork journeys, but teaching people to be more conscious in their breathing. And then teaching the executives 1 or 2 breathing techniques, what I call breath hacks, which are those 60-second techniques to just either lift you if you're down in a slump before a meeting and you need to focus, but you can't, or to calm you if you're stressed and anxious. And there's many of them that I teach, and those are what I encourage people to do 3 times a day, just for 60 seconds. That's a start.
It's incredible what you can achieve in 60 seconds.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Nobody can say they can't find 30 seconds or 60 seconds to do this. Yeah. I'd love you to share some of those breath hacks if you can. I just love to just say, if a lion was at the door, which is basically the same state as you would be in if you were in a sympathetic nervous system state, and the lion could be a deadline, a project that has to be finished, a problem you can't solve, money you're finding it difficult to raise, whatever. That could easily constitute a lion in your mind's perception, and that would put you into a sympathetic state. And I often say to people, well, in that state, would you be wanting to be able to solve problems? Would you be wanting to be able to think clearly about long-term strategies? Would you be wanting to have people skills? And all those things would become completely irrelevant if there was a lion at the door. All you would be really interested in is survival. And so if we allow ourselves to walk around in survival mode and in a sympathetic state, then all those beautiful functions of our brains that actually are what make us the choice executive or leader or project manager, whatever that we are, would not be necessary for us, and they'd be switched off. And so really, really invaluable to bring up our parasympathetic state, calm our sympathetic nervous system, down-regulate our system so that we can use all those brain functions that we are famous for. And
yes, that's exactly the issue. People don't realize in that sympathetic state, that your brain is not able to operate. Which is why if you're having an argument with somebody and they're getting all very tense and anxious and angry, you're not going to be able to get a reasonable explanation or understanding. Why? Because physically the brain's not able to function properly in that way of a logical thinking brain. So walk away and then see how it changes. So yes, it's a very big one. I had a client yesterday, very quick story for you. She runs her own business. She has a business partner. It's been quite tense. And she was saying that she's in a very high stressed state. So I said, well, let's just do a simple breathing exercise. Just want to get a measure of your breathing state at the moment. Very simple. All that we did was I got her to count her numbers of breaths in 1 minute. And after 1 minute, she had taken 25 breaths. Now, for the listeners, if you're breathing around 12, 14, you're fairly healthy. You're pretty good. If it's less than 12, you're fit and you're strong and you're not stressed. Between 12 to 16, that's pretty much average, what is deemed as average. Anything above 16 could either mean that you've got a medical issue, maybe asthma or pneumonia, something wrong with the lungs, or you're in a high stress state. So that was just sheer evidence that she's overbreathing. Overbreathing leads to a lack of oxygen, not more oxygen. So she wasn't able to function correctly. So I did what's called I forget my words now. What did I do with it? I ran her through a 60-second breathing technique to downregulate. Just simply breathing in through her nose and out through her nose for 1 minute, but dropping to 6 breaths a minute from 25. And in that way, she was able to absolutely calm her racing heart and feel more centered and controlled. So that's just one of it's called resonant breathing. There we go. My mind wasn't working. Not enough oxygen. So resonant breathing technique, just to calm, is one of my favorite ones for teaching high stress and anxious people. I do it before I walk onto stage. You can sit there and do it. Nobody knows what you're doing. This brings you collective and brings you back into the moment and resonates your mind to your heart.
And at the same time, it's practicing mindfulness, which means your mind and body are in the same place at the same time. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. So in order to assist with this, something which I find sometimes neglected is while you're doing these breathing exercises, count in your head. Because when you're counting in your head, you're not able to think about all these other things that are going on at the same time, which helps with calming.
Well, it focuses the mind, doesn't it?
Focuses the mind.
Takes it from a racing mind, which is a sympathetic state, kind of take in all the information and think about everything and solve all the problems, down to one thing. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So have you got another breathing hack for us, or is that the one you really wanted to share the most?
The other one that is it's probably one of the most well-known around the world is box breathing. And box breathing is common amongst firefighters and the armed forces who are living in high anxiety states for long periods of time. So they're taught this. And box breathing is also an excellent one to down-regulate as well. So that's brilliant. And it's very easy to do in 60 seconds. And all the box breathing is you're breathing in through your nose to the count of 5. Then you hold your breath for the count of 5. You breathe out slowly through pursed lips to the count of 5. Then you hold your breath for the count of 5. And you repeat that. Very simple to do. And there's even apps you can have on your phone which can help guide you on these as well. So they're actually fairly well known, but what I didn't know when I was in corporate is where most executives are, is that they don't know that this is available. And that's why it's become my mission to work with high-functioning leaders and teams who are in constant high-stress states to be able to manage and handle their stress better, because you can't change the state of the work environment, can you?
Definitely not.
That stays. Right. So teaching people how to regulate their emotional reaction to the stressful circumstances means they can handle it better. So that then a stressful circumstance just becomes a circumstance because you're not reacting in a negative manner to it, and you can deal with it a lot quicker, a lot more efficiently, with more focus, more clarity, and get it done. Makes a huge difference.
It's a funny thing, but and I even find it with my brain, knowing all the stuff and having scientifically tested it myself in some ways and so on, that my brain and my ego brain specifically, the part of my brain that thinks I'll be better and safer in the world if I'm more successful, says you're too busy to do it now. Just get on with what you've got to do. You can do it later. And I'm just asking if you've got sort of a few words for our sort of defenseless state against that inner director which wants to push us to go faster and go there more furiously and do it now, and you haven't got time.
That ego mind just wanting to try and keep you safe and preventing you from trying something new because it's weird and it's a bit woohoo and tree huggy, and how can this stuff be real? If it was real, you'd know about it. All these stories that our mind can tell us that prevents us. I like to spend some time and I help people identify what their major part of their problems are, so that it becomes far more of an awareness of why this is an essential part of their life's journey. What are the consequences for not focusing on your health and your well-being? So instead of it just being a thing, right, let's start helping you breathe, it's more than that. The breathwork is an element of an entire change of habits, how you do things, more mindfulness, having a look at the sleeping patterns. When do you go to bed? When do you wake up? It is a lifestyle choice that needs to be made. One thing on its own won't necessarily lead to that long-term transformation that somebody's looking for, which is to get more connected with the family, with their business, to go back to knowing who they are, which was my issue. I didn't know who I was when I left corporate world. I'd got lost for so many years. So it becomes all-encompassing, that this becomes a way of life. So it's not just one thing. You need to add it into many different elements that need to change in your life. As I've said, there's no such thing as a get-well-quick scheme. Oh, if I breathe, my problems are resolved. Well, I only wish, but I've not found it like that yet.
Yeah, in my 6-month coaching program, we work on 11 domains of well-being simultaneously. So I would love to say to people, everybody wants a pill, everybody wants a magic wand. And I know we'd love it to be quick and easy because we think we don't have the resources or the time, and we're so stressed anyway. How could we add something else to our to-do list? But really, it is such a fallacy that there's any pill or any magic wand that's going to give you the well-being that you desire and deserve. In fact, it's a very cruel thing that the world keeps trying to sell us, that if you take this pill, I had a patient saying to me today, or a client saying to me today, I've got a whole bucket load of digestive enzymes I'm taking. And digestive enzymes, go right on ahead and take them. But the bottom line is you still have to eat well. You still have to sleep well. You can't eat well if you don't sleep well, and you can't sleep well if you don't breathe well, and you can't breathe well if you don't exercise well. So you've got to do all those things, and each thing has a knock-on effect on each other thing. So I couldn't agree with you more. There is no magic wand, and it is millions of tiny steps that constitute the well-being that we're trying to get for ourselves.
And Sue,
it's undervalued in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Now, isn't this also a huge part of why reaching out to a professional is essential?
Yeah.
Such as yourself, a life coach, a coach who can, it's not only about coaching, it's not a word I really love to use that it's not only about that coaching, but it's that accountability.
Yeah.
That you're accountable to somebody else. Somebody else has got your back and on this journey with you. Reality is maybe you can improve your life on your own. Maybe you can just rely on YouTube videos or read a book, or you possibly can. It may take you many years. I tried for 4 years on my own, and for 4 years I failed miserably. Those are my learning. Those are my lessons, my life lessons, call them my university fees. Until I reached out to a coach and said, okay, I can't do this anymore, and realized that actually the coach is the fast track. That the accountability partner, somebody who's been there before and done it and said, this was my mistake, this is what I did, and this was what the results. Follow that person. That was the magic pull for me.
I think you're so right, but also because we've all got blind spots. I mean, yes. I go to a coach and I go to a psychologist and I go and get help myself, even though I've been studying this stuff, because I know that there are places I can't look and see because they're in my blind spot. So somebody else can help you shine a light where you can't look and you can't see. So yeah, I totally agree. Get help. And why the hell not? I mean, we get help with everything else. Why shouldn't we get help with our well-being and our breathing? So 100%. I'm really happy that you raised that. So you have touched on it, Tim, how often and how much should people be focusing on their breathing? Can you just reiterate that? Because I think that's going to be something that people are going to want to go away with. Okay, so if I've got to do this, then how often must I do it? And how long is it going to take? And what's the commitment?
Right. What I would always advocate is build it into something you're already doing in your day. Don't add it in as something else on top of a hectic schedule. It's not going to work. It becomes stressful and then I forgot to do it. So add it into something. For example, and we'll go back to what we were speaking about, that it's a lifestyle choice. You need to change multiple things, not just one of them. So perhaps mindfulness in the morning, be it meditation or reading, even if it's reading your Bible or reading a book or journaling, anything which just helps you be in the moment and be in the now. So while you're doing that, focus on your breathing. If you're doing meditation, focus on your breathing during the meditation, be it for a 20-minute meditation or mindfulness. Or if your meditation is walking the dogs on the beach, I do meditation every morning and I breathe then. But my main breathing time is when I'm out in nature on the lagoon, as you said right at the beginning. I'm blessed where I lived and love it here. Every morning at sunrise, I'm on that lagoon. While the dogs are walking and I'm walking in nature, getting my exercise, I combine it with breathing. So it becomes a combination of things you do at the same time. Now, if you're finding that, okay, look, it's that time of year, now doing an exercise regime or waking up earlier, I've got 2 young kids, Tim, you don't, no, I don't, quite right. Well, do you sit in traffic? While you're sitting in traffic, what are you doing? You're listening to No Hope FM? Turn it off. Breathe. Just a few minutes actually makes a difference, but add it into a routine that you already have. Then it's not a burden. So that would be where I'd recommend anybody starts off.
I think that's such valuable advice. Use your dead time, really, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, 100%.
And just breathe deliberately and on purpose, and whichever way you do it, either a box breath or a diaphragmatic breath or in through your nose, out through your nose breath, whichever one you choose of the ones we've chatted about this afternoon, do it in your dead time. Yeah,
100%. Exactly. And it makes a difference. Just that 1% adds up. A small incremental habits, it does add up. Now, you're not going to notice in the first week. You're not going to notice in the second week. But you will start to notice. And then it becomes more routine.
I think the word notice is actually such a valuable word to put there. Because I think so many of us living in this crazy world that we find ourselves in are not able to notice. We're so busy on our treadmill that we hardly notice. And I had a client in here yesterday. She's an advocate, actually. And she was saying, I spent so many years building my career And now that I've just in the place where I could really enjoy the success I've managed to create, I find myself trying to build my health because I let it go. And yeah, health is the crown on the head of the well that only the sick can see. And she is experiencing that. And so, yeah, to really just put some breath work, some deliberate breathing into your dead time. It's so simple. I mean, how can we not be able to find the motivation and the space?
Exactly. When you start to consider that we breathe 20 to 25,000 times a day, and you can live 3 years without hope, 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, but only 3 minutes without breath. What do you think is important? And one of the key factors for me was when I understood through my learnings that our breath is the only part of our entire physiology that we can actually manipulate. And our breath manipulation can impact our heartbeats, our blood pressure, our brain activity, our digestion, so many things in our autonomic nervous system. So God gave us the ability to control our breath for a reason, because it can help us manipulate our entire physiology when you learn how to use it properly. That to me was a massive wake-up call, that we've got access to this, the gas and the brake of our entire body.
Yeah. And because of our ability to manipulate our breath, we can in fact manipulate our nervous system, calm us. And out of that, we will manage our state of being so remarkably. It will improve our sex lives, will improve our weight, will improve our energy levels. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. Yeah. I hope we've done a good enough sales job on this thing. I really think.
Well, you know, I had somebody a couple of months back at the beginning of a talk who splurted out. I can't remember exactly what he said. It was a gent, and he said, "I don't believe in this breathing stuff." And I said, "No problem. I understand. Respect that. Do me a favor. Hold your breath for the time of my talk, and let's revisit." I never heard from him after that. I don't know quite what happened, but
didn't see anyone going purple in the audience. And I've got a last question. Everybody's talking about Wim Hof breathing right now, and cold water swimming. And Andrew, you've got the perfect place to do cold water swimming, living in Canada. But have you got any comments on Wim Hof and his breathing styles?
So my wife uses Wim Hof breathing, and she's in the lagoon virtually every morning because she loves the cold water. I get a migraine straight as soon as I put my big toe in. So it's not mine. Massive. What is interesting with Wim Hof is after so many decades of people criticizing him and telling him he doesn't know what he's doing, he started to attach the science behind it. And the science is exact proof of what he's been saying for so many years of how beneficial it is for you, for your state, for your entire system. So the combination of that breathing with then the ice plunge or the cold sea or the cold shower, just do some research on it. Google it if you want. There's a lot of research out. And if somebody, in fact, wants to do some of their own research, one of the best books on breathing that I've ever read is by James Nestor, called Breathe. Very, very easily written book for the average person who doesn't know the difference between a sympathetic and a parasympathetic nervous system. And he's got a lot of information in there. That was a huge eye-opener for me. So if any listener wants to think, well, I want to research, where should I start? That may be a very good place. James Nestor's book.
Great. And we'll definitely put that in the information after this podcast. So thank you for that. Have you got any other books that you can recommend?
I've got my own book.
Well, what is your book called? And please tell us.
It's a free ebook that I have that I wrote last year, just putting a lot of what I share and teach into writing. It's called From Burnout to All Out in 60 Seconds. So it gives a lot of a very detailed, but a general overview for people who don't know about breathing. And it gives 6 different breath hacks. It gives the understanding of what happens when we are in a stress state with our physiology, So it's an easy read, but it's quite detailed at the same time for those who want to go into it. And I'd be very happy to share that link with you for anybody to grab a copy of that.
Well, please, we'll definitely put the link to that ebook into the comments after the podcast as well, so people can access it. But if they want more from you and they want to get some coaching from you, some breathwork training, how do they get hold of you, Tim? What's the best way?
So email, which we'll put out there, tim@professionalpointer.com. Or I'm on LinkedIn as well. We'll make sure everybody's got that detail. And very happy to have no obligation. It's not a salesy 30 second, listen to me, 30-minute conversation and chat to see how I can help you and get you started. This is, while I have a business and making money is important, it's the service and helping people that is my primary focus. And I know from there the money comes. So if I can help somebody just to find a bit of ease and peace and calm in a chaotic world, especially in this time of year and the world that we're living in, then I've achieved what I want to do.
Wonderful.
So happy to connect.
Helping people to breathe. I mean, it sounds so simple.
It does.
But just so profound. And yeah, I remember my daughter once, somebody phoned when she was about 6 years old, and she said, "No, you can't speak to my mum. She's busy breathing." And the truth is, we are all busy breathing. My daughter was on the money, but when we breathe deliberately and we use breath work, we can change our physiology. We can change our long-term well-being. And it was a no-brainer. So yeah, Tim, I could sit and chat to you about these techniques for hours and hours.
Yes.
But I think in a little package, you've given so much insight to our listeners. You've really put across a good argument for why this should be something people should make time for. And I think you've really shared your own passion for it, which comes from experience. So
Okay.
it's been great talking to you. I look forward to downloading your ebook. I didn't even know there was one, so I'm going to download it straight away after this, and we will definitely make that available to the listeners. But thank you for your generous sharing and all your knowledge and experience that you've shared with us. And I'm hoping that more people will breathe after this. And breathe
exactly.
and everybody will have their mouths closed and their nostrils open, and they'll pay attention to what the outcome is in their body and notice what that feels like.
Been a pleasure, Sue. Thanks so much for the invitation. It's been absolutely wonderful to connect with you. Always good to connect with somebody who's a breather. Or a pulmonaut, if you want to get technical, but let's not go down. Awesome.
Thank you, Tim. Please push the subscribe button so that you can be alerted when future episodes are available. Thank you for listening.